Anyone can become a victim of domestic violence.
7.4% of men and 22.1% of women reported being physically assaulted by a current or former partner.
In 2011, 1,247 women and 440 men were killed by an intimate partner.
1 in 4 homeless women are victims.
Domestic violence is more commonly found in the lower class families.
African American women experience domestic violence at a rate 35% higher than Caucasian women.
23% of Latina Hispanic women have been domestic violence victims in their lifetime.
Still got such a long way to go. Then that light, it's your eye. I know, I swear we'll find somewhere. The streets are paved with gold. Bullets fly, split the sky.
We wanted to reflect a little bit on the Lorber and Johnson essays. A lot of what we came across for our information was based mostly on women being the victim, but we are aware that it is becoming more common for men to be victims. And a little bit like reflecting from Lorber's essay, in one part she talks about gender inequalities and how basically we have a devaluation of women and a dominance of men, and that's like a socially constructed norm that we have created. We create this social construction of what gender is and what role each gender plays in a society, which can lead to a man being socially constructed as dominant, which is why he feels more dominant in a relationship and would play into that role a little bit more. And she did also talk about how society is starting to become a little bit more diverse in what the idea of it is. She talks about how men are becoming stay-at-home dads and moms are going to work. And I think that that kind of plays into where men become a victim, because women are playing like that dominant role, and even though they're not a man, they're still taking on that dominance, which leads them to dominate their relationship and potentially be abusive. She also talks about how African and American Indian societies have, quote, manly-hearted women, which are women that take the role of a man in, like, the marriage and taking care of the children and the job, which, again, leads to that dominant role and making them feel like they're the dominant man, basically, and channeling their anger kind of that way.
And we also have found a lot about how lower class families have more situations in which there is more domestic violence. And there was a thing in Johnson's essay that said something about how the lower class doesn't have the resources that it needs like the upper class does. And I know that a lot of times people fight and things get violent and scary is because of money and because of the hardship that they're going through and how they struggle through life and how they have to struggle to put food on the table and to keep the electricity on. And I think a lot of that comes, and nowadays I feel as if men are at home a little bit more because women have the job and the man gets like laid off, and then that's how the woman starts playing the role as well as being the the breadwinner.
Basically, all it comes down to is that we like socially construct this idea of what a relationship is and what each gender role plays, and like we feel like that's where a lot of the issues channel from,
And
having like that dominant role and having, you know, issues in a lower class family that, you know, you wouldn't normally have in something that's a little bit more stable.
and we also need to ask society as a whole why we are letting this behavior go on, instead of asking a person or men or women who have done this to people and ask them why they did it. We need to start asking as a whole and changing as a whole.
We can't just put it on the person individually. We have to look at, you know, society and ask why we let it be okay for them to do this, or not necessarily okay, but why we encourage stereotypes like this that inevitably, you know, create this tension between people.
So to change, I believe that we need to stop asking the individual. We need to start fixing as a whole.